Spoiler alert, Trump supporters are indeed more likely to think that African Americans are lazy and uneducated and criminal and violent and a number of other factors than the supporters of other candidates. And so when we have in the past accused Trump of being racist, of appealing to white racism in America, and that in fact it appeared that many racists were flocking to him, I and many others have been attacked. Whenever we claim that someone is a racist, it's very easy for conservatives to simply say, oh, you just want that to be true. Well, look, I can want whatever I want, but the data is what the data is, and I've got the data for you right now. And so when you ask the supporters of these different candidates to themselves rate people, they will reveal to you who they are and what they think about the world. And so when you ask them to rate African Americans on a number of different characteristics, you can then compare that to what people who support other candidates think about those people. Now, nearly half of Trump supporters described African Americans as more violent than whites. The same proportion described African Americans as more criminal than whites, while 40% described them as more lazy than whites. They're almost eager to label African Americans as these negative things. They want to say it. Okay? Trolls aren't often as scared of being out and out awful as we like to think. That they hide behind the anonymity. There is a pride element to saying that other groups, less fortunate groups, are awful people. And they seem to show that. Now, Trump supporters are not the only people in America who hold these beliefs. These are they're time-tested stereotypes across America. And so even Clinton's supporters, who is the most liberal of the candidates they included in this study, for some reason they didn't include Bernie Sanders, which I think is negligent, up to about 1/3 of her supporters describe blacks as more violent and criminal than whites, and 1/4 describe them as more lazy than whites. Now, I understand that already there have been comments typed in where I saw a chart that showed that they commit a disproportionate number of crimes, and I don't understand how race and socioeconomic status interact, and so I'm going to attribute it to the race rather than to the fact that there's a higher percentage of African Americans in this country that are poorer, and when you compare them to poor whites, they actually have similar amounts of criminal behavior. That was a long little summation, and that's what the comment's going to say, but you should bear it in mind, because of course there's an interaction between race and socioeconomic status, and that's incredibly important and always will be ignored when right-wing media is talking about these sorts of numbers. Now, we've got some other stuff for you. So, when asked where they want to live, a little bit over 1/3 of Trump supporters said, I prefer to live in a community with people who come from diverse cultures. That's a good thing. 1 out of 3 would like to be around diversity. But 46% of Cruz supporters said that, 55% of Kasich supporters, and 70% of Clinton supporters, which means that 1/3 of Trump supporters like a little bit of diversity, but that is about half of what the only Democrat that was included in this, their supporters would like. And so again, less in favor of diversity. 31% strongly agree that affirmative action and policies like that discriminate against whites. Only 21% of Cruz supporters, 17% of Kasich supporters, and just 16% of Clinton supporters agree with that. And so again, they're twice as likely to think that those discriminate against whites. Now, overall, there is good news in this, though. On any of these measures, no more than half of Trump supporters rate African Americans as the negative option that they're given. And that is certainly good, of course. But in every case where they are able to provide a negative evaluation or stereotype of this group, they do so at higher rates than all of the other candidates. And, man, that should scare you. Now, look, there's one of two things. It could be that being a racist makes you like Trump. That because you already had that opinion, you simply find him to be more appealing, regardless of what he does. We'll say that as a hypothetical. It could be that he is inspiring in people these views, or a heightened version of these views through his rhetoric. Or it could be a combination of the two. It could be that he has racist policies and racist rhetoric, and there are some racists who want to vote for him. Now, as I always say, this is a Trump version of what I normally say about conservatives. Being conservative, or in this case, being a Trump supporter, does not mean that you are a racist. But if you're a racist, right now, you probably find Trump to be a pretty appealing candidate. Okay? If you think that white people have gotten a really bum deal lately, and if you think that black people are lazy and they're violent and they're criminals, you're probably not looking at Trump and then saying, nah, I prefer Clinton in this case, or maybe I'm a Kasich man. Now, again, that doesn't mean that simply because somebody supports Trump, that's why they support him. There can be other reasons. Maybe they just really like walls or whatever, although that's tied to race too. But if you're a racist, you're probably a fan of Donald Trump at this point, and they're not shy about sharing that. They like talking about that stuff. That has been a part of American politics since day one. I like to think that we're in a better situation now than before, that those beliefs are more rare than they used to be, but they are still all too common. And they provide a base that a xenophobic, race-baiting politician can use to generate enough support to potentially win a seat in our government, maybe even one as important and influential as the presidency. And so that is something to bear in mind. Now, there's going to be loads of Trump supporters down in the comments saying, no, I don't, that has nothing to do with it, man. That's not what I believe. And that's good. I'm glad to hear that. But other Trump supporters, they do believe that, man. And now we've got the data to prove it.